Have you ever met someone whose words demand attention and respect the moment they speak? Their voice seems to hold an unshakable power, drawing everyone in effortlessly. And then there's the rest of us, trying to speak up but often getting ignored, interrupted or dismissed. It's not about being the loudest, the smartest, or the most experienced. The secret lies in how you speak. In this video, I'm going to show you practical techniques to make your words more impactful, tools rooted in timeless wisdom, psychology, and Stoic philosophy. These strategies aren't just about sounding confident. They'll change the way people perceive and respond to you. By the end, you'll know how to speak in a way that commands respect, whether you're in a meeting, a casual conversation, or addressing a crowd. Let's get started. Let's start with a habit that quietly erodes respect: over-apologizing. Those two little words, "I'm sorry," may seem harmless, but when used unnecessarily, they can chip away at your credibility and self-respect. Imagine walking into a room 2 minutes late because of traffic and immediately blurting out, "Sorry, I'm late." You've just framed yourself as the problem instead of acknowledging the circumstances. Or worse, someone bumps into you and your reflex is to say, "Oh, sorry." Why are you apologizing for being there? Over-apologizing isn't just a bad habit, it's a mindset. It's rooted in the societal norms and, for many of us, upbringing. Growing up, some of us were taught that being overly polite or accommodating was the key to being liked. But there's a difference between politeness and undermining yourself. So how do you fix it? Start by identifying when and why you apologize unnecessarily. Keep a journal or use your phone to jot down moments when you catch yourself saying, "I'm sorry." Ask yourself, was an apology actually needed here? Spoiler alert, 90% of the time, the answer will be no. Instead, replace "I'm sorry" with more confident phrases. For example, instead of "Sorry, I'm late," say, "Thank you for waiting." Instead of "Sorry to bother you," say, "Do you have a moment?" Instead of "Sorry, can I add something?" say, "I'd like to add something." And remember, owning your mistakes confidently doesn't require self-deprecation. Take inspiration from people who address errors without diminishing themselves. I appreciate your patience. I'll correct this moving forward. These moments show humility without compromising self-respect. By ditching the unnecessary sorries, you'll project confidence and assertiveness, and people will start to see you differently. Respect begins with how you respect yourself. Let's move to the next key habit: setting boundaries. Respect isn't something you demand. It's something you teach others through your actions. One of the most powerful ways to command respect is by setting clear boundaries and, more importantly, sticking to them. Let's be honest. Setting boundaries isn't easy. It can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're someone who's used to saying yes to everything just to keep the peace. But here's the truth. Boundaries don't push people away. They teach others how to treat you with respect. Start small. If you're new to setting boundaries, begin with low-stakes situations. For example, if a friend invites you to an event you're not excited about, practice saying, "Thanks, but I'll have to pass this time." Or if a colleague sends you a non-urgent email late at night, wait until the next morning to respond. These small wins will build your confidence to handle bigger challenges. Here's a simple 3-step framework to set and maintain boundaries. Define. Be clear with yourself about what you need. Ask, what am I willing to tolerate? What feels like too much? Communicate. Express your boundary calmly and respectfully. For example, "I can't stay late tonight. I need to stick to my schedule." Enforce. Stick to your boundary even if others push back. If someone reacts poorly, stay firm without over-explaining. Handling pushback can be tricky, but it's key to maintaining your boundaries. For example, if someone guilt trips you, respond with empathy, but hold the line. Say, "I understand this is frustrating, but I'm not able to help this time." Keep it short and confident. Setting boundaries may ruffle a few feathers initially, but the long-term rewards are worth it. You'll find that the right people will adjust, and those who don't were likely taking advantage of your lack of limits anyway. By defining and enforcing your limits, you're not being selfish. You're protecting your time, energy, and peace. That's not just self-care, it's self-respect. Now let's talk about another subtle yet powerful tool for commanding respect: the art of the pause. One of the most underrated tools for commanding respect is silence. Yes, silence. It's not about what you say, it's about how you let your words breathe. A well-timed pause can hold more power than an entire sentence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, rushing to fill every gap with words. But when you speak too quickly, your words lose impact. They blur together like background noise. Imagine a song with no breaks between beats. It's overwhelming, right? The same goes for speech. Pausing creates rhythm, making your message more memorable. Here's an example. Think about a meeting where someone presents an idea but rushes through every detail without a moment to breathe. The audience zones out halfway through. Now imagine someone else who pauses after key points, letting their words sink in. That pause doesn't just hold attention, it commands it. But the power of pausing isn't just about speaking, it's also about listening. This is what I like to call power listening. When you pause, you give yourself space to truly hear and process what others are saying. This not only helps you respond more thoughtfully, but also shows respect for the conversation, which in turn earns you respect. If pausing feels unnatural, practice it. Record yourself speaking and intentionally add pauses after key points. Listen back to hear the difference. It might feel awkward at first, but over time, you'll see how those pauses enhance your presence. Science backs this up. Our brains process information better when there's a moment of silence. Pauses give your audience time to absorb your message, making it stick. The next time you speak, embrace the silence. Resist the urge to rush. Instead, trust that your words have value and let them land. Silence isn't a weakness, it's a strength. From pausing to create impact, we now move to another key tool for earning respect: humor, when used with purpose and precision. Humor is one of the most effective tools for connecting with people. A well-timed joke can lighten the mood, build rapport, and even make you seem more approachable. But here's the catch. Humor is a double-edged sword. Used well, it elevates the conversation. Used poorly, it can undermine your credibility and make you look like someone who isn't to be taken seriously. Let's start with self-deprecating humor. On one hand, it can be disarming and relatable. For example, joking about how you're terrible at parallel parking in a casual setting might make you seem approachable. But on the other hand, using self-deprecating humor too often, or in the wrong context, can make people question your competence. For instance, making jokes about your workload in a professional setting, like saying, "I'm just here to make spreadsheets look pretty," might get a laugh, but it also risks signaling that you don't take yourself or your work seriously. Humor also varies across cultures and professional settings. In a casual, creative environment, humor might flow freely and be part of the culture. But in formal corporate or cross-cultural settings, it's important to read the room. What's funny to one group may not land the same way with another. Humor is as much about context as it is about timing. Nonverbal humor is another powerful tool. A playful facial expression, a raised eyebrow, or an exaggerated pause can convey humor without saying a word. Similarly, intentional body language, like pretending to struggle while carrying a light object to make a point, can make people laugh without resorting to verbal jokes. Here's the rule of thumb. If a joke takes away from your credibility or respect, skip it. Humor should never come at the cost of your authority or professionalism. When used with purpose, humor is a sign of intelligence and confidence. It builds trust and breaks down barriers. But when overused or misapplied, it can do the opposite. So strike the balance. Be thoughtful, deliberate, and always aim to connect, not distract. Now that we've explored humor, let's move to a behavior that demands even more restraint: avoiding gossip. Let's talk about gossip. It's tempting, isn't it? That juicy little story about a coworker or friend feels impossible to keep to yourself. But here's the brutal truth. Gossip doesn't make you look interesting. It makes you look untrustworthy. When you spread gossip, you might get a few laughs or nods in the moment, but the lasting impression is far more damaging. People who gossip openly about others aren't seen as fun or relatable. They're seen as liabilities. Because if you're willing to talk about someone behind their back, what's stopping you from doing the same to everyone else? Gossip is a fast track to eroding your credibility and destroying trust. Here's an example. Early in my career, I made an offhand comment about a coworker who was often late to work. It started as a harmless joke, but it spread like wildfire. Before I knew it, people were adding their own assumptions to the story, and the coworker's reputation took a hit. Later, I found out that their tardiness was due to taking care of a sick family member. That moment taught me a hard lesson. Gossip hurts more than just the person being talked about. It reflects poorly on the one spreading it. Now let's flip the script. Avoiding gossip doesn't just protect your integrity, it elevates your professional image. When you're known as someone who stays out of drama, people see you as trustworthy and dependable. Leaders take note of this trait, and you become the person others can confide in. So how do you pivot when gossip comes your way? Use a neutral or positive response. For example, if someone starts bad-mouthing a coworker, say, "I've always found them easy to work with," or "I'm sure they're doing their best." This approach shifts the conversation without being confrontational and subtly reinforces your values. And here's a fact to back it up. Research shows that trust is one of the most critical factors in workplace relationships. According to a study by PwC, employees in high-trust environments report 50% higher productivity and engagement. Avoiding gossip doesn't just protect relationships, it fosters a healthier, more collaborative environment. By dropping the gossip, you set yourself apart as someone with integrity, maturity, and respect for others. And trust me, that's the kind of reputation people will respect and remember. With gossip out of the way, let's move to another critical habit, knowing when to stop talking. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. The uncomfortable truth is that most of us talk too much. We over-explain, repeat ourselves, or fill silences with unnecessary words. And while it may feel like we're being thorough, all we're really doing is diluting our message. When you over-explain, you risk losing your audience's attention. Imagine pitching an idea at work. You start strong, but instead of stopping once you've made your point, you keep adding details, rephrasing, and anticipating every possible question. By the time you're done, people are no longer engaged. They're confused or bored. Here's the thing, being concise doesn't make you seem uninformed or unprepared. On the contrary, it makes you look confident and in control. Knowing when to stop talking shows that you trust your words to stand on their own. So how do you master the art of brevity? Start with this tip. Practice headline speaking. Think of your key point as a headline. State it clearly and confidently first. For example, instead of launching into a long-winded explanation, say, "Our team's focus this quarter is improving client retention." Then only elaborate if necessary. This approach not only makes your message clear, but also invites others to ask questions, which creates engagement. Here's a counterintuitive insight. The less you say, the more people will seek your input. When you're concise, your words carry more weight. You become the person whose ideas stand out because they're clear and to the point. If you struggle with over-talking, try this simple technique. When someone asks you a question, count to 3 before responding. This brief pause gives you time to collect your thoughts and ensure your response is intentional rather than reactive. Ultimately, knowing when to stop talking is about trusting yourself. It's about believing that your message is valuable without needing to overcompensate. This confidence doesn't just make you a better communicator, it commands respect. As we wrap up, remember, respect is earned not by how much you say, but by how much people want to listen to you. Now let's bring all these points together and conclude with how you can start applying them today. We've covered a lot of ground today, so let's take a moment to recap. Respect starts with how you present yourself and your words. First, ditch the "I'm sorry" habit. Stop apologizing unnecessarily and start owning your presence. Second, set boundaries and stick to them. Teach others how to treat you by protecting your time and energy. Third, master the art of the pause. Silence is not weakness. It's where your power lives. Fourth, use humor without turning into a clown. Let humor connect you to others, but never at the expense of your credibility. Fifth, drop the gossip. Nothing damages trust faster than being seen as untrustworthy. And finally, know when to stop talking. Let your words carry weight by saying only what's necessary and trusting the impact of your message. These 6 habits aren't just tips. They're tools to transform how people see and hear you. Each one, when practiced consistently, has the power to change the way you communicate and, more importantly, the way you're respected. Now it's your turn. Take one technique from this video, just one, and put it into practice this week. Maybe it's pausing more in conversations, setting a small boundary, or replacing an unnecessary apology with a confident phrase. Pay attention to how people respond and, more importantly, how you feel. Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear what worked for you. Remember, your voice is one of your greatest assets. It's how you express who you are, what you stand for, and how you impact the world around you. As we wrap up, let me leave you with this. Your voice is your power. Use it wisely, and the world will listen. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep speaking your truth, commanding respect, and being unapologetically you. See you in the next video.